Hello, friends and families. Welcome back to Homeschool Together. We are in Engineering Week here with
Yeah.
the Romans. We are continuing our journey along. This week we focused heavily on Roman architecture and engineering.
Yeah,
This was
cool.
kind of the big push that we had. We've got some fun. Look at these fun art projects. Ariel can see them. They're not on the screen right
Yeah,
now,
you'll
but
see him in a minute.
we'll see in a few minutes. But let's first get into it. We should have covered it last week. The way things worked out that week, we just didn't start it, but we have a new reader. So the Pooh book we talked about, we finished. Winnie the Pooh.
The House at Pooh Corner.
The Pooh book. The Winnie the Pooh book.
So this is Roman Diary, the journal of
Ilion.
Ileona, young slave.
We said Iliona. We don't know if that was actually correct, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. If you remember back in our Egypt, we did the Egyptian diary with the young boy Nakat, I think was his name. He was a scribe. Now this is about a young slave girl from Greece. So she had
From Rome.
no, she was actually someone from Greece.
She's from Greece.
Yeah,
I didn't read that.
Yeah, she was from Greece, and she was kidnapped by these slavers and brought to Rome and sold as a slave into a family in Rome who had kind of a vineyard and in Rome. And her brother were split up, and her brother was forced to work on the farm, and she worked in the house. This was this is exactly the types of books that we as around the world, our ancient civilizations need. Build Your Library needs to partner with whoever these people are, and they need to make a book for every single ancient civilization that we have. These books are just tremendous. These are must-buys, absolutely worth reading. I can't tell you how enjoyable these are, and they're such a simple concept. It's a young girl writing about what's happening in the day, and it's just so well done. Like, it doesn't feel forced. The diary flows and the story comes through in the diary, and there's drama and urgency and everything that comes through the diary, even though you're reading it ex post, right? With the fact that it's a diary. I love this book. This was so good. We actually read it it was supposed to take, I think, a week and a half, 2 weeks to read it. We read it in just a week. It was such a fast read. It's so enjoyable. My daughter was pounding on me to continue reading. The drawings are really good. The writing is easy to consume.
Some nice kind of line drawings.
It's the perfect amount of reading to time that you have for the curriculum and the enjoyability of the book. It's just the perfect blend. It hits all the intersections. It's right in the center.
Looks like there's a castle diary and a pirate diary.
The pirate diary looked pretty cool.
So,
but I wish
then the Egyptian diary, and that's it.
I wish they made them because I know China's coming up. I wish we had one for here. This is such a good book. This is absolutely a must buy. This is a book that's, I think, if you have kind of an advanced reader at this age, this is a cool thing for them. Maybe they'll enjoy it in a year or two to just read themselves. And maybe come back to this when you have kind of a second learner like we will have.
Yeah.
When our daughter's a little bit older, maybe a year or two, she'll be reading this to her sister, or maybe reading it just for herself. This is such a good book. A nice stretch book if you have a little bit of older learner as well. I love this book. This was so good.
Yeah, so this is supposed to take, I believe, 3 weeks in the curriculum, but you guys burned through it really quick.
Burned really, really, really fast, which is good because it gave us some other time to read a few other books that we have as well.
Right, so let's look at what else
Let's go right into it. So one of the big kind of crowning things that everybody focuses on, it's right in the front. Like if you think about Greece, you have the Parthenon and all that type of stuff.
Mythology.
And the mythology, but here you have the Colosseum. And so we alluded to it last week with kind of our chariot project that we did, and we talked a little bit about Ben-Hur. I went into the Colosseum this week, and this is the Who Is series that we've
Who HQ, I want to say.
Who HQ, yeah. We've recommended these books before, and this is such a good book. It's only about 100 pages, wonderful drawings, nice little pieces of information.
And there's a map in the back, a fold-out map of Rome with the different things. But yeah, the old ruins that still exist from the Colosseum are really, really great. And there's a few other sites in Rome that you can still visit. And so it's a great way to talk through. I mean, the engineering feat of all of this is just like mind-blowing.
And what's so cool about this is because they know where the ruins are, and they kind of know what they look like. That kind of goes into our media recommendation we'll talk a little bit later about, but this is such a good book. This is so enjoyable, absolutely worth having. We have a bunch of these. I know you have like a dozen or so of these.
Whenever they have like buy two get one frees or whatever, I always pick these up because then you can get them. They're like under $5, and so
it's great to kind of double dip on this, because if you do the around the world journey and you hit Italy, you can do this book as well. So you can kind of double dip on both curriculums. You maybe read a little bit there, read it again here. early learner maybe forgot about it, you can do it again. These are really good.
Right. What's nice about these too is if you don't want to read the entire thing, you can always just read the first like couple of chapters, which give you kind of an overview. So that works out. But these are really great. Our kids love these books. They loved when we did Around the World. We did like Where is Machu Picchu? It doesn't matter what age they're at. They just really always seem to connect with these Who HQ books.
They're really good. It's just a nice big chunk of information about a really famous person or thing. In this case, the Colosseum. I really like these. These are great.
Right. So because we got through with Roman Diary, we had time. So that was really
Continuing
nice.
on, we read a couple little short stories, and the final ones, I think these are the final stories in the mythology book
Right.
from Emily's daughter. And
Neptune versus Minerva, Persephone, Queen of the Underworld, and about Roman mythology. So this is the last of this book.
We read about the famous Hades and not Persephone, but I think it was Persephone. The Hades story about stealing the daughter and that causing the seasonal change. They had a mirrored story, one-to-one story in Roman culture because they did borrow all the same gods and everything. And then there was the Minerva story at the end with Jupiter, I think, as well.
So this book, if you didn't listen to our YouTube on this, I don't know, probably a couple months back, this is written by Emily Cook's daughter, Sarah Cook. You can only get it on Amazon. You can't. I don't think you can get a Kindle version. Anyway, you don't really find these used because they are just printed for this. So this being the end of it, let's talk about your summary of what you think of this book overall. Do you think this is a good purchase? Is this something that's covered in enough other places? What's your thoughts on the world mythology for children?
I think the length of the stories is just perfect. Like it's 2 to 3 pages long. It's not a big ask to read. So I know your eyes are all sitting there at home and stuff. How much time are you spending reading here? How much time you're spending reading here? Obviously, you have these chapter books. You have the curriculum books. You have the history quest. All of that is like time. I mean, you guys know at home how many hours you're spending reading. I could spend more time reading more mythology stuff. This is like the perfect amount of distance. I liked how she writes the stories. They're super clean, super simple, not overly complex. The dialogue's very fun. I just think they fit. It just fits really nice with this age group. I don't know if I would use this for anyone older. I don't know if they can go a little bit younger with this, but they're just perfectly fit into this. Now you could go and try to dig up your own stories and try to find stuff online that might be out there. Absolutely, 100% you could do that. I just like the fact that it's all bundled into one thing, and she carefully put a couple of these stories that kind of sprinkle throughout the whole curriculum so far.
I guess what I'm kind of thinking is if you have a child that loves mythology or a family that loves that, and you know that you're going to go and read a whole book of Greek mythology, and we made
recommendations for those,
right? Yeah. Then perhaps you could think like, well, I'm going to read these stories and other books. I know that we're going to dive into mythology because we love it. Then maybe this isn't as crucial. One of the things that this does have in it, though, is Judeo stories, mythology, told as mythology, which you won't find in a lot of books because they're not going to be secular in that way. So that's a really good part of this.
Nice little added advantage.
But yeah, I think if you know your family is going to be big into mythology and you're going to pull a bunch of other books, this may not be necessary. But if you're really going to follow the curriculum and you're not going to take a bunch of side quests on it, this is nice. And it wasn't very expensive.
Well, and you can see how thin it is too. So it travels well, something great to put on. Also, if you have a little bit of an advanced reader, the writing is very simple, not in a negative way. It's just very clean and plain. You could have an advanced reader read this as well.
Okay, absolutely. Good to know.
Absolutely. So the question, Ariel, is, are you not entertained? We're going to talk a little bit about gladiators because we talked about the Colosseum.
We love these books. I know you guys are every week like, what new You Wouldn't Want to Be book are they going to pull up?
You wouldn't want to be YouTubers.
You wouldn't. So this is You Wouldn't Want to Be a Roman Gladiator. Gory things you'd rather not know. Just
a lot of fun. Really diving into, and I think it blends well with the Ileona story as well, where you're talking about slaves. You're talking about slave culture. We're doing a little bit. We're in the next week now with the Pompeii story, and that kind of blends in this as well. You just don't realize how big of a slave community there was in Rome. It was a little bit different than they had ways to kind of like work their way out of slavery, but it's amazing on what these people were forced to do, especially for the bread and circuses, and they had to fight their way out, and not all of them made it out. So it's tough. It it gets more into the nitty gritty. Obviously, we've seen most of us have seen the famous movie Gladiator, and
Right.
we know it's
Which
pretty.
for adults, if you haven't seen it or haven't seen it in a while,
It's definitely-
it's good to check back up on. Of course, not for kids at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, to imagine what they went through is really crazy. I think this works really well as you're studying the Colosseum and reading about that, because you can really put some more connection there with like what their lives were like and how difficult that was. Yep. So yeah, this is a good one.
Absolutely.
As always, these books are great.
So between the Colosseum book and the Ileona book, that was the bulk of our reading. Obviously, we did some more reading on the History Quest, and then we were doing some additional reading in some of the other supplemental books that we had been pointing out in the last few weeks. We're kind of pulling those in, and we talked about how there are certain pages in there that maybe focus on certain things. And this week was Engineering Week, so we'll talk a little bit about what we did for arts and crafts, but we were reading from those books as well regarding the things that were specifically towards building aqueducts, building the Colosseum, building their housing. Just some of their housing was pretty amazing if you think about, like, oh, they had 5-story building apartment complexes.
Really?
Yeah, it was
5-story?
5-story stuff. It was pretty wild. So like they were building up and out, and it was just and then the roads. We watched the roads video. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about arts and crafts. We went pretty hard into the arts and crafts. So obviously start with doing some artwork.
Yeah, we're always color.
We did a little bit of map work this week. We actually, all three of us, me, the little one, and the other one, we all did this, and my little one added I don't know what it was, a human bumblebee, maybe something from Dune, I don't know. So we talked a little bit about the peak of the Roman Empire at the peak of Trajan, the emperor.
This is really cool.
Just kind of like doing the border, coloring in the thing. This was a nice little activity.
This is from printableworldmap.net.
This was such a thing. I just printed off 3 of them, and we all colored them, and we did the border. It was a cool little project. I liked it. I'm just trying to get our heads around the size and scale. Next thing, because we did the chariots last week, we went ahead and brought more chariots in, so they went ahead and decorated their little chariot boys. I don't know what it was, but they did that.
That's very cool.
So we're talking a little bit about that. Then we went into kind of a deep dive on the aqueducts, because the girls really, like, it's amazing some of these things are still standing. We went ahead and built our little aqueducts.
So these are out of paper. So you cut them out and then you just fold them.
Yeah, we did.
And then you tape them down. So we've got this kind of landscape here that they painted first.
We used cotton balls to basically make the trees and the edges, and then we did both papers, and then we cut them out and folded them, and we just taped them down. It was pretty cool. This was a cool project. I think they really enjoyed it.
But I think they got the sense of scale, right? Because you're seeing pictures and stuff, but I don't think that they really kind of got that it was elevated until you actually made it, and then they could see that. I think this is a really terrific and easy project.
This is an easy paper
that
craft.
Anybody should take on for this. I think this is a great way to show Roman engineering.
Yeah, like I was thinking about adding like some mountain here, so kind of anyway. We were gonna,
you could go more.
We were going to over-engineer it, but this was a good thing. We did some media as well, talking about the aqueducts. I think that was the cool thing. How they brought all the water in to the baths. That was really the centerpiece. How a lot of these richer families in Rome had indoor plumbing, like obviously lead pipes. That doesn't help you with other things, but you know they were able to bring water into the house and everything. And how did they do that? And that was really the cool thing we did here. And then the Roman roads, really just watching them make roads and talking about how much work went into making these roads. I was blown away, and just the scale and the distance and how many roads they built, and how many are still out there that they you can visit today. So it's really amazing to watch, and we had a great time doing this. So engineering was the big thing this week. We really focused on that, and that was our big focus. And we had a good time. I think we had a good time.
Yeah, I think that this was, besides Cleopatra Week, this has so far been our kids' favorite week.
They enjoyed this arts and crafts. This was like easily an hour and a half thing. So it really fit in. And as I always say with a lot of this stuff, I like to double dip because we ain't got that much time. When they're painting this type of stuff, and you draw some lines and they paint inside the lines, you can get your other reading in while they're doing it. Especially you have some learners that likes to listen while they do things. This is a great time for you to sit back and do some of that reading, do some of that extra chapter book reading, do some deeper dives while they're read to them about aqueducts while they're making aqueducts. I really like that kind of stacking effect to be a little bit more efficient and take advantage of your time, because I know it's precious for us. We get I was telling you yesterday, we get about 3 good days to homeschool with this curriculum a week. Okay. And so that's all I got. And so I really got to accomplish.
Well, they're not full days. They're just
they're partial.
A few hours.
Few hours. I get
3 days a week.
I get some extended time that I can do to the curriculum. I have 2 days that are pretty much washes, so I can't really do too much of this. Maybe some supplemental stuff here and there, a little bit of reading here. Let's look at some flat books and whatnot. But being able to sit down and really focus on stuff, I don't have that much time, and that's probably what a lot of you guys are experiencing. So I like to read while they're doing activities like this. So.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Absolutely.
This was really fun. I know that our daughter, our youngest, is very much looking forward to getting onto Pompeii because she's got a whole thing about volcanoes.
Lava.
She's
lava.
very into it. She's been into that since she was like 3. She's almost 5.
When she's a world famous volcanologist, we'll look back at these
She's
videos.
very into it. So she was like,
look at these 2 guys. They didn't
we
realize
were
what they had
prepping all the materials for it, and she was like, volcanoes.
So we're going to go on to Pompeii.
Stay tuned.
We're going to Pompeii next week. We're going to stay. We're going to visit, not stay, because we know how it ends. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and our little one is really looking forward to this week.